Welcome back. I'm Jaco. I'm the co-CEO of FinMeUp. Really great to have you guys for another edition of the FinMeUp Podcast. Today I'm really excited about Paul Gordon joining us. We're going to talk a little bit about his story and speak about the history. We've known each other for quite a while. And he's going to give us some of his financial advice tips, and we're going to just explore the way that we are working together and how we're going to really help people.
Yeah.
Paul, we've known each other for a long time. I mean, maybe, take us back a little bit. Can you remember where we first engaged and how that those conversations went?
Our conversation was actually started at my previous employer, where I was a principal officer of a pension fund there. That's where we met. You were one of the service providers, and naturally, there was just this understanding of our way of work. Since then, we've been getting coffees here and then, just touching base with each other. So then in one of the conversations, we discussed what we were working on, and there was 100% synergies. And yeah, that's basically high level, the history of us.
You're amazing. I think it was 2018, 2019, I founded Benefit Counselor as a software for pension funds, and we were traveling anywhere and everywhere that people were willing to see us and engage us. And Paul was the principal officer of the Benchmark Retirement Fund in Namibia, a real big independent funds, and we went up to Namibia to see him, and luckily he could see technology going forward, and it was a massive help on us signing that deal, which was a great win for Benefit Counselor. And then in the implementation stage, I can just remember Paul meticulously going through and testing and really making sure that every member's record was correct. And I don't know how many thousands of lines of Excel you've tested, but a real meticulous implementer. You've built a couple of startups as well. I remember one called Dope. I thought that was quite a cool name. Maybe tell us a little bit about just your story and, just a little bit around where you've come from. And you also qualified CFP, am I correct?
Yes, sir. I did my accounting articles after high school immediately while doing long distance unis. After that, I then went to go work for one of the bigger entities here in the country, in Namibia, as an internal audit manager. After that, I resigned, went into business for a while. So I did a vending machine entity that went really, really well, got lucrative deals from the likes of the F&Bs and whatnot. So with that, decided to start a restaurant. One of the worst and best decisions of my life at that stage. After that, when the restaurant was running well, went back into the corporate world, where I started with retirement fund solutions. I started as an internal audit risk and compliance manager in that space. The business continued to run on the side as well. Sold all my shares in the businesses that I had to my partners for $1. Left after about a year. I got summoned.
Which business is this that you sold for $1?
That was the first vending machine business as well as a restaurant. At that stage, okay. I was mentally done. I was exhausted, and my partners and I at that stage were not getting along. And although I started the vending machine one, I decided to let it go. But then I still had debt for those entities in my name, as well as, like I mentioned, after about a year, I got summoned to pay for the debt on the restaurant because it was a suretyship I signed. So it turns out since the day I left, my ex-partner did not pay the rent. So the rent was due. And the suretyship was a legal document, so I had to pay for that. And that's basically where my financial journey or my financial distress started. While working my way out of that, fortunately, progressed in my career. I went on to become the PO of Benchmark, where we met, Benchmark Retirement Fund. And then after that, Old Mutual's head of distribution here in Namibia for the corporate business. After a while, moved into operations as the chief operations officer for the corporate business and did that for a while. Moved on to the role of GM for retails for Old Mutual. And then after that, decided to go on my own and do my fintech, which is basically the one that I'm currently running with, OneWayOut.
Yeah, that's quite a journey that you've been on, and I'm sure many grey hairs and many lessons learned.
Absolutely.
The one I want to come back to and just quickly unpack with you is, talk to me about that suretyship. I've bought a house and you just sign the papers and you don't always really think what you're signing, but there could be a massive implication in that. And maybe talk us just through that, how it happened, what was the situation when you entered into that agreement, how aware were you of the implications potentially? Because I think there's a major lesson for people in their financial lives around this kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, from a suretyship perspective, when we go into business, we unknowingly sign suretyships. Whether you open an account with a supplier, wholesale supplier, just to supply you with goods, more often than not, in their agreements, there's some level of suretyship, right? So, what that means is you're signing in your personal capacity. So, when you sign for that, that means that whatever debt is incurred on that account, you're liable for that.
Now tell me, I hear you 100%. Like the financial plan goes out the window, everything
Yeah.
changes. Like, what's the first step that you take practically? I know you're a practical guy, methodical guy. So,
Yeah.
like, where did you start with the budgeting?
Yeah.
Did you go and negotiate out there? Did you like go
Correct.
ask for help? Like, what was the first step? Where did you start?
At that stage, the first thing you do is to see where you can find help, right? Banks can't help you at that stage because you're already overextended. There's only really family members and friends that can help you. So you go to family members and friends to see who can help you, and that's what I did. But then after a while, they also get tired of you or always needing help, right? So they also start to feel a certain way about you. Then I had to say, okay, what other step is there? And there was no other alternative. So what I did practically is I got extremely upset after depression and being upset about it. I got angry at the situation. And when I say angry, I was like, no, this can't be my life. So when I got angry, I made a point to know where every single one of my dollars go, or my rents go. So I made sure to track every single one of my rents. And immediately when I decided to start tracking it, I could see where my wastage was going. So I could see where I was wasting money. And when I say tracking it, I downloaded a budgeting app. And then every expense I spent, I would track and I would record that expense. So I was very meticulous about where I spend money and how I spend it. And that's when I started to realize, okay, but with the means that I have, I can actually walk my way out of this, right? So I can cut here a little bit on the Netflix streaming. I can live without those things for a while, right? So there were things that I was spending on that I knew that I could live without that were more luxuries and needs. So I started cutting on those. And then I had a little bit more and more to save every month. So as the months progressed, I felt like there was more at the end of the month than before, but I did not have an increase in salary. I did not have anything spectacular happen. I just started tracking what I did. Second to that is I started negotiating with creditors. All right. So at that stage, I was behind on everything, even my house. I remember with my car, the collections bank knew me by first name. They would call me because I was behind and they would be like, Paul. And I'm like, is that Jackie? He's like, it's Jackie. How are you? And then we'd have a casual conversation. And later on, I realized also, yes, debt is a bit of a challenge, but mentally, it's just a transaction, right? So if you view it that way and you talk to people, they are willing to listen because they also don't want to put your things on auction because it's a lot of effort for the banks to put your house or your car on auction and try to get the money back. It's easier for them just to wait for you for a couple of months to recover and then continue paying your debt because they make more money that way. So started talking with the respective people and was able to negotiate terms here and there. And then after a while, I was able to recover from that as well and get back to a state of where everything was paid up. And yeah, that's basically the very high level recovery journey with us.
That's amazing. I mean, planning, getting the budget in place, really going to like figuring out what are needs and what are luxuries and to cut back on luxuries and things like that for a couple of years potentially and knuckling down and doing what you need to do. I also hear you talking about the stages of grief, being upset, being
Yeah,
depressed, being angry, and then eventually going like, well, yeah, I've got to do something about it. I got to take some action.
correct.
Amazing story, and I think something that a lot of people resonate with. I think a lot of people find themselves with too much debt, and the debt statistics obviously are really, really poor. But all that journey and all that learning has informed what you're doing now. So talk to us about One Way Out. What's the plan there? Where you're going? And
Yeah,
obviously we at FinMeUp have decided to work with you and to partner
yeah,
and to be in this together, working towards the same goal. So there's a great partnership between ourselves. And everybody is going to see a lot more of Paul on the socials, the YouTube channel. Maybe take us through that process of thinking not just about yourself, but now taking your learnings
yeah,
into the space, helping other people.
yeah. So, one more thing, during that process of recovery, one of the things that I really wanted to understand was finances. So that's why I decided to get myself the CFP so that I could fully comprehend how the finances work. Because before I came into the pension fund industry, I knew very little about what goes on behind the scenes when it comes to our finances. We just know that there's a line on our payslip that says pension fund deduction. That's it. That's all we know. We don't know what goes into it. We don't know there's stuff like risk cover. We don't know there's the whole process behind it, and that pension fund benefits are actually protected from creditors and stuff like that. That's just scratching the surface. So when I discovered this whole world, I wanted to understand it. And in understanding it, that also helped me get through this journey of recovery from being hundreds and hundreds of thousands in debt to recovering, to fully recovering, to not needing a job anymore. One Way Out is a passion project because I believe that there is, and you know the stats, that only 6% of the people that are currently working will retire financially stable. The 94% won't. And that was just a painful stat for me. So, but I knew that in order to do this, you needed to understand finances. One Way Out was built on the sense of the journey that I went through, my personal lived experience of saying I was in debt and behind on all my bills. And not only by a couple of months, significantly, but I figured it out. I walked my way out from being in that space of being depressed to almost that mentally trying to harm yourself to all the way to being financially okay to not having to work for someone. So with that journey, I realized, but there's a lot more people that are stuck there that need guidance. So that's why I designed the app that helps people walk through that journey of debt to fully recovery and building wealth for themselves as well, and trying to really put a dent on that 94%. It's an app that's designed to help people, and it helps people by basically having what I didn't have back then as a first one, where you have a life coach, someone that you can talk to. Because when it comes to debt, especially the men, they go through it in silence. They suffer in silence. So number one, you have someone you can talk to. Number two, you have a budgeting capability so you can track your budget. Number three, there is a detailed, comprehensive financial plan that you can do. So you can go on there and do a comprehensive financial plan so that you can craft your journey. And all of that is for free. And then eventually, when you appoint us, we give you that detailed financial advice that FinMeUp is basically doing a fantastic job on. When you mentioned what you were doing with FinMeUp, there was so much synergies that I was eager to join, because FinMeUp is also on a journey of not only helping people from a financial planning perspective, but educating people, right? So that's my passion project for the next, I don't know, half of my life, God willing. And you're already on that journey. So it was easy for me to jump on and see how I can help.
No, we're very excited about having you on board and partnering and working together. But I think what's amazing what you said, when you were in financial distress, you went to family and friends for help. You went to the bank and to the creditors to see if you can negotiate something differently and potentially find them to help you out. But now you've added yourself as a third leg to the stool. So, people don't necessarily just have to go to family and friends or the bank or the creditor. They can also come to One Way Out, FinMeUp,
Wow.
and we can help them to plan and
Correct.
to manage and to find a way out of that. So, in nothing like experience lived. You can read all the books and know all the theories, but someone that's actually been through that has got a completely different perspective. So, Paul, it's exciting. We're going to do a lot more of these podcasts and share some ideas and thoughts. And I think in the next couple of weeks and months, we're going to dive into things like stocks and bonds
For
and
sure.
debt and life insurance
for sure.
and everything that
Yeah.
goes around this business. So we're very excited to have you on board. Thank you for telling us your story, and I'm sure we'll hear more of it in time. And then we're gonna leave it there for today. So yeah, thanks for your time and chat soon.
Thanks for having me, Jaco.